Okay. Mishmash. Little bits into, well, ostensibly to Pyro, a little bit to Connor, aka Logic Rolls the Dice, and probably, obviously, concerning Trek. First and foremost, I must take issue with the point that Pyro says this, or at least the impression I get. I'm halfway through your video. I have a few thoughts to deal with, and this is a principal thought, so this is the video. Anyhow, you talk very fast, Pyro. I must say, I've jumped back. I've watched this first half in kind of jump back form again and again because of the speed at which you speak. Moreover, it's not just the speed at which you speak, because I can speak fairly normal, at a normal pace, which is kind of fast, you know, like how everybody thinks Chinese is fast or Spanish is fast. The Spanish probably think we talk fast because, you know, blah, 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 blah. So the words can come freely from time to time, but not only do you speak fast, but you generate ideas fast, and not always in a smooth fashion. But it's not the point to criticize you. It's the point is just to note that I'm a slow reader. I have a slow working brain, and I just, point of interest to bring that up, the difficulty and the fact that I keep jumping back. Right. So you said, you know, that you know, the nature of truth has got to be about this fact that all we have is this film stream, and the correspondence theory of truth is about the idea that it's true if it corresponds to something in reality, which I'll also take issue with. But a question, I'll put it as a question as well as a criticism. Does that idea rule out the notion of a priori knowledge and truths? I'd say it does. I'd say the statement that everything's about this and this is what truth is and everything's always about the stream rules out the notion of a priori truth, and to that extent, well, I would disagree. So that's my answer, and I disagree because, well, you give reference to it to yourself. The most famous kind of a priori truth out there is the Descartes, you know, I think therefore I am. You see, it might be true that we've developed language and so many concepts motivated through our interactions in reality, the education we've received and so on, learn language, right? But we can actually create something more than the stream, as you put it, as of input from the images. I believe the irresolvable truth between deciding whether to go with solipsism or believe in an external world, the decision and the necessary seeing of the truth that it's undecidable, and to pose certain questions you just have to make a decision and plow on, is an a priori truth. See, so we get motivations. So some truths are directly motivated from our interactions with the universe, but when we formulate them as a truth, they they become a priori in the sense that they stand alone from reality, and we can adopt them and see a truth in them by mind testing them and saying, you know, though something in the real world, and even if it's not something, an event or a thing in the real world, but an idea or a piece of language that we've internalized that allows the generation of this concept. And you know, concepts, they're nothing fancy here. I've outlined this. This is just a formation of a structure in the brain, and it's probed, but not in the agency sense. It's in the mechanical sense that it remains resident, and with increased usage, dendrite paths thicken, their electrical conductivity gets stronger, and it becomes, as its consistency is revealed as a truth, because the probing is consistent interactions and connections with other parts of the brain. So we have these concepts, and they stand alone. This is partly triggered, perhaps, this mode of thinking in objection to Pyro by Connor's comment that my entire epistemological standing of the I in reality had this posterior eye, or whatever, feel to it. I can't tell whether when he says he likes it, I think it's meant derogatory and as a criticism, and I understand it has a feeling of that to it because of the nature of this, the leap out of solipsism. It can retain that, but perhaps in certain elements that might be a valid criticism, but you'd have to point out the premise, which is flawed by its posterior analytics. And I would think you could, I believe all those premises is, say for example, that the leap of faith that information is conserved can be a priori reason to. So it may have a feel. See, science delivers us this notion, and to me, particularly, Leonard Susskind delivered to me this particular notion of information conservation, and so it has this posterior feel to it. Now, the motivation for it is from reality, but the concept of it as probed, as looking at the logical consequences and deciding to hold this firm, well, actually it is in a correspondence with reality, the regularity of reality, but the presumed regularity of reality is akin to the leap of faith of solipsism, and the truth therein is a priori. So we make this leap that the world's going to continue being regular. Yeah, it's posterior in a sense, but in the sense that I'm impulsed to do something, that there is a mechanism churning and trying to form consistent structures in my mind, then, and it's not really trying, but the mechanism is, it's as if you're trying to, and it's forming structures, then there is no more structures to be built upon if you assume the opposite, you see. So it's an a priori truth to say I can't have any more structure. If really it becomes pointless in a sense. Every word that seems to embody an agency to it, or a verb, in this reasoning sense, you know, it's only ever in a sense the way I would portray it. So in a sense there's no point to building structure if we don't assume information conservation. So I get it, the feel, but you'd be mistaken for thinking it's I think you'd be mistaken for being able to and unable to articulate an argument against me that would demonstrate it as a folly of posterior reasoning. We're often, you know, it can be posterior reasoning folly in the sense that have you ever seen it's a classic experiment, the four cards, two on display, and you have to guess at, you're given some theorems about the nature of the hidden cards, and you have to choose one or something, and most people don't make a prediction by falsifying. It's kind of a fit, and I've argued against Emendum about which is kind of posterior reasoning, thinking that mere fit is enough to guarantee truth, and it's not. Fit is good, but you can say I have a story that fits, and that's about it. And some of them are interesting and plausible, and that would be that. And some are, on the face of them, preposterous, but are revealing of the problem sometimes. Right, so that's a little objection to Pyro. That's Connor's statement taken to task. Yeah, I'll finish off Pyro's video now and hope that there's no other poignant, salient point in there for me to deal with. But you know, toodles.